Hi guys, welcome to the next tutorial on jumping and doing a double jump. Now the first part of that is really easy to make it jump, the second part is a little bit harder. So first thing to note is for our object we have to go over to dynamic and we have to set it to the physics type, and we have to set it to dynamic in order to make it fall down to give it gravity. If we press play it falls down. Also for you to know, if we go into the world properties section, I've changed the gravity to 20, which makes it form much more realistically how it would on Earth. Now that means the numbers that I'm going to be using down here are a lot higher than if I'd have left that at 9 or whatever it was preset to. So just bear that in mind. You guys might want to do that as well. Set your gravity to something a little bit higher. Obviously if it's set out in space, then you could set it even lower and try and get the physics working that way. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a keyboard sensor. I'm going to call it jump. And I'm going to use the spacebar, and I'm going to add a motion sensor. And what's very, very important for you to know within the motion actuator, is first of all we name it jump, but we don't use location in order to make it jump, because as it goes along it will stop it dead in its tracks. We always use linear velocity. Now I'm going to use a large number like 12. If you've not changed your gravity, it might need to be a smaller number like 7. I'm going to join those together, and if I press P, it jumps, which is great. The problem is if I hold down the spacebar, it carries on going up into the air. The way to get around that is to turn on tap. That way, if I hold down the spacebar, it jumps with a speed of 12 while ever I'm holding that down. The only other problem we have though is if we keep tapping it, it jumps into the air. The way to get around that, dead easy, add a collision sensor, call it jump stop, and connect it to the logic gate. What this means is because this is set to AND, we have to press jump and we have to collide with something in order to jump. And I can tap that as many times as I want in the air. It won't jump until it touches the ground. If you want it to be able to jump when it touches anything, leave it as it is. If it needs to touch a particular surface in order to jump again, click MP and set it to a material. For now though, I'm going to leave it as it is. So if that's all you want your guy to be able to do, a simple jump, then you can turn this tutorial off and go about your business because you've achieved everything you wanted to. However, if you want to be able to do a double jump, it's slightly more complex. First of all, I'm going to delete the collision sensor so we've got our normal jump and the guy can carry on jumping as many times as he wants in the air. But what we need to do is stop that from happening once you've jumped twice. So on this side of the screen you're going to have a properties panel. I don't have it, mine's over here, but it does exactly the same thing. For this object we're going to add a game property by clicking add game property, and we're going to call it jump. We're going to set the type to integer and leave it on 0. Integer just counts up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We can get rid of that by pulling it this way. What we want it to do now is when we press the space bar and it jumps, we want it to add 1 onto that. So we want it to count. So we add a properties actuator and we'll call it jump count. Set the mode to add and set the property which we've created over here to jump and the value to 1. So what's going to happen is every time we press space it's going to jump and it's going to add 1 onto this number. Doesn't really do anything at the minute for us. What we need to do is restrict that so that it will only jump if it's got a value of 0 or 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a property sensor. We'll call it jump stop. And all we're going to say is we're going to change the evaluation type to interval. So now it works between two parameters. Set the property we've created to jump. And the minimum value we want it to work at is 0 because the property is going to be 0 at the beginning. Once we've pressed jump once, it's going to go to 1. And then once we press it again, it's going to go to 2. Now, we don't want it to work on 2, otherwise we'd be able to jump for a third time. So we're going to set the maximum to 1, 0 and 1. If we wanted it to be able to do a triple jump, then we'd set the minimum to 0 and the maximum to 2. Dead easy. We join this up then. So now what happens is, as we press space, it's going to jump and add 1 onto it. And this is going to wait until it's got a maximum of 1, and then it's going to stop the whole thing from working. So if I press space, double jump, but then I can't jump anymore. The whole thing's broke, which is great for when I want to do a double jump, but not so great when I land again. So in order to get this to work, all we need to do is we need to say when he hits the floor, set this property back to 0. So we'll do a collision sensor. We'll call it jump reset. And we'll leave that. We could set it for a particular object with MP, obviously. And all we do is property sensor, jump reset. We're going to assign it, because we don't want to add it, our property value of 0, which restores it back to how it was at the beginning. Join them up, test it. 1, 2, 1, 2. And again, I can't describe how awesome that is. Probably an 8 on the awesomeness scale.